Hi, forever loving everything. I'm trying a new mic. I'm not sure if I can be heard. Good, thank you. Hi, Jisoo. I'm going to share a few words. If you'd like to stay in the silence, feel free to mute me. I have a new microphone, so feedback is welcome. Thanks so much to the people joining in live, and thank you to everyone taking the time to watch this. Hmm. So, what's on my mind and heart today is surrender, and specifically surrender around the process of healing. And so many people were drawn to Bruno Groening because of his capacity to heal, to take literally, to take on other people's illnesses. Sometimes illnesses would just vanish in his presence. And to this day, while he's not in his body, people hand over an illness, and sometimes the illness just vanishes. Sometimes people just look at a picture or tune in once and it's gone. I saw it happen. I, um, I had a bunch of schooling letters and I felt guided to give some of them away. Like I had a huge stack and I felt like, well, this is not so much selfish, but like maybe these could benefit other people. So I left one out and someone picked it up. I don't know who. And then the next day I left another one and that one got picked up. And then I went to put out another one and I met this woman and she said, "Oh, you're the one leaving these." I picked them up and I'm reading them. I'm really um, very touched and moved. And I said, "Well, would you like to learn how to receive the energy?" And she said, "Yes." And it ends up this person was living on the streets. I didn't, I was guessing that, but we talked for a moment. And so we went over to a park and we just sat on the earth and I led her through tuning in. And we found a way for her to sit where her legs weren't crossed. And she said she really felt the energy. She had a lot of health troubles on top of living on the streets. And I said, "You can tune in as much as you want, as much as you feel." And I saw her again. I think it was a couple days. It may have been a week, but I think it was more like a couple of days. And she'd had a healing. She had severe low back pain, and then it just left. And like she had trouble walking and lifting things, and she went and she helped a friend move. She was lifting boxes and helping someone move. And talk about grace, you know. The person didn't even have a chair to sit on. You know, most of us think of we've done most of our tuning in on a chair, and lo and behold, the healing happened. And then I contrast that with a story of me getting off one of my healing medications, and it took almost 2 years. And I was pretty devoted to Bruno, tuning in every day and looking at his pictures. And then I've heard stories of healings that have taken 20 years. So there is this mystery to it of it can happen in a moment, it can take some time, it can really take some time. And then there were a few, and Bruno gave examples of healings that literally were not meant to happen in this lifetime. Um, I've given this example before. Alfred Hosp had many healings with Bruno, but there was one particular healing where Bruno said, um, This is, in essence, Bruno said, this burden is by design. You have this burden by God's decree so that you will focus on your spiritual development in this lifetime. And that's my understanding of why Bruno said you can't demand a healing. Of course we can demand it, but it's not right to. Yeah, I think that's what Bruno meant when he said you can't demand a healing, is that God knows what's best. And okay, it's not for me to say. I always feel uncomfortable talking about this because I don't want to discourage anyone from believing that healing will come. And according to Bruno himself, some healings are not going to happen in this lifetime. And that's by design, and that's God's will. And that's where surrender comes in, is to keep reaching for God, to keep trusting, and to leave the results in God's hands. It's like, it's almost like it's our duty to strive for healing, but the results are absolutely in this realm are not in our hands. And I would say ultimately in any sense, the results are not of anything, are not up to us. The results are really up to God. Us showing up and doing our best, doing our duty. Bruno said we had a duty to seek the divine connection. It's an interesting way to look at it. It's literally our duty. Seek God. Hmm. So if anyone has any thoughts or feelings or questions on what I just shared, please type them in. If anyone wants to share their experience, and I forgot. Please don't believe anything I say. Find out for yourself if it's true. I believe I've just accurately represented what Bruno Groening said, and Bruno Groening, in my view, was a master, and I absolutely am not. So please check in with your own heart, your own conscience, and please read Bruno's words yourself. It's funny, Bruno will guide this process. I was just the other day looking up a topic, and I literally opened up to something I needed to hear, and then not that topic, and then the next page was a quote on that very topic I was looking for. So, please do your own reading, and yeah, I'm gonna drop into silence. Anyone wants to share anything or ask anything? And what's what's even deeper on my heart is this idea of humility and recognizing our smallness. And this is connected to what I just said, is that, you know, while we are, according to Bruno, divine creations, divine marvels, we're also children of God. We're not, as they say, running the show. God is. God's the parent. We're the child. And so for me, lately, I've just been hanging out with humility of not trying to force my way. It's one thing to go for something you want, but then when I try and force it, life doesn't feel fun. And of course, a great example of this is the computer. Computers are quirky. Well, I don't know. Yeah, computers are quirky. Sometimes you're doing something and it just doesn't work. And so you can try and force it and keep like, or you can just leave it be and come back and try it later. And it really doesn't feel fun to try and force things. And I think that's what Bruno meant by demanding a healing. It's kind of like bossing God around. Like, okay, God, you're going to heal this thing. It's one thing to have faith that God can and that ultimately God will, but it's another thing to demand it in a certain time. And Bruno said, only God knows when only God has the overview to know when a healing is best. So there's kind of this attitude of, hey, God, you're in charge. Like, I'm going to do my best. Ah, great question for ever loving everything. She asked, Bruno smoked a lot. What do you know or think about that? I haven't heard or read about him smoking a lot, but I have I mean, I don't know how much he smoked, but I have read that he did smoke. And so Bruno said a couple things about that. One of the things is that Bruno said that he would smoke so that he was doing things with his fingers, I assume manipulating the energy. And so that the smoking was what would distract people from that. He also said that smoking helped to no, I think that was coffee. He also said that smoking helped to numb his sense of smell and his sense of taste. Bruno said that not only could he see evil and hear it and feel it, but he could taste it and smell it. And I can't even imagine what that would have been like. And he said that that helped numb his sense of smell and taste. Um, he drank coffee, which he said helped tone down the level of energy. Bruno was constantly Bruno said in essence that he was like a magnet. He said that it would literally be dangerous for someone to be around him when there was lightning happening. I guess because he took on so much energy. He was literally a magnet and then he radiated energy. And apparently, during a lightning storm, he was taking on a lot of energy, which is really fascinating to think about. That that lightning is an energy form, and that Bruno was able, what not able, would just take that on. And I remember once he said that smoking was one of the few pleasures that he allowed himself. So, and that's what I know about him and smoking, or yeah, that's what I've read that he said. Beautiful question. Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions or sharings, please? And you asked, what do I think about it? Well, Bruno once said, um, at a community hour, Bruno once said, uh, the friends bring so much evil with them to a community hour. He said, if you could see the evil that's present here in this room, you would run away. I think maybe he said screaming, but he said you would run away and you would never come back. So at first I didn't know what to make of that, but then as I really thought about it, that's when I really realized how sensitive on every sense of the word Bruno Groening was to evil. And that even, you know, and this was people who I assume had been coming to community hours for years. He said this about. So that really clued me into just how much evil is around and just how sensitive Bruno Groening was and how distasteful it must have been. If you've noticed, most of the pictures Bruno is not smiling, and I feel like that partially gives an answer. And then, a- according to Bruno, that's one of the reasons why he smoked, was to tone that down. Thank you, thank you. Hi, Lapiche. So I'm just about to wrap up. I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. Beautiful question, forever loving everything. Hmm. Aw. Thanks, Angel. I've been going through regulation and some soul searching, and I've shared a little bit about the soul searching, and I'll share some more. Um, it all comes down to I'm just really tuning in deeply and meditating on what is the function of tuning in groups and not, and tuning in on your own. Bruno said, "After I am gone, the time will be right for everyone to experience help and healing within themselves. Everyone will become their own physician." And thank you, it was pointed out by Christine, Bruno Groening pointed out that the one of the benefits of community hour is that some people are not able to take the signal in on their own, that they literally need the group. So I had forgotten about that. I'd read that years ago, but I'd forgotten about it. So, all right, I'm just gonna speak from my heart. I'm on the verge of tears here. So for me, the teachings of Bruno Groening aren't just a teaching. They are, I don't want to be dogmatic. This is my view. They are the teaching that can turn everything around on this world. And they're just the teachings of Christ. And they're the teachings of Christ expressed that can solve every problem. So for me, the teachings of Bruno Groening aren't just something to help me, something to help other people. They're the answer. They're the answer to all the world's problems. That's the view I have. So I take them very seriously, for better or for worse. Some days I probably take them too seriously, some days maybe not seriously enough. That's how I approach it. And so I don't just approach it as like, hey, let's get together and have a good community hour or have a nice experience. And this is where the tears is like, hey, I need to understand these teachings not only so I can practice them, but so I can share them accurately for the sake of this world, for the sake of um, freeing not just myself, not just the people who come to these gatherings, but literally helping to free the world. And I don't see this as just my job, but as anyone who's passionate about or drawn to these teachings. What did Bruno really teach? And so I've been in this inquiry for years, and I've taken one step forward. Thank you, Christine, for that quote. I'd forgotten about it. What is the healthy balance between Bruno saying everyone will become their own physician and Bruno saying that in the community hours, people who are he talked about it. He talked about it often that some people cannot take the signal in on their own. That not that they can't, that they've come to a place where they're not able to. And so for those people, they're only and I've been in that position, and there may be some days where I'm still in that position. I don't think that's the majority of the time, but that for such people, the only way for them to take in the divine energy is the community hour. So those are 2, um and then, Bruno would say, "I want the friends to get to the place where they can take the energy in directly on their own." So I just been meditating on those, trying to understand what Bruno taught, trying to understand where I am in that spectrum, and maybe it changes day by day, I don't know, and trying to understand uh, how I can best help people on this path. So thanks, Lapiche. I miss doing the sessions, and yeah, I've just been in regulation and also just asking some deep questions. So I'm going to leave comments open on this video. Please feel free to share your thoughts. And thank you everyone for joining in. And I wish everyone a beautiful, beautiful day. Take care.